Holy SHMOW ZOW! Fionna and Cake has finally wrapped up after a crazy month of multiversal adventures, and now we can finally talk about it as a whole. We put together a 107 facts list before the final 2 episodes were released, and folks seem to love it. So, with the new information now freshly in our brain pans and with everything in context, let's get another heaping helping of facts. Who doesn't like seconds when it comes to cake? Reminder, there will be spoilers, so make sure you're prepared. Alright, on with the facts. Number 1. During the intro sequence, you can see a Golb charm getting shocked with electricity and then breaking apart. This is mirrored when Simon actually pulls off his ritual to see Golbetti again, but it can also be seen as foreshadowing to their final meeting. Number 2. Speaking of foreshadowing, did you notice that the camera flies right into the back of Simon's head? This lets the audience know that Fionna and Cake's world exists inside of his dome from the very get-go, although you would have to wait until episode 2 to really see this confirmed. Number 3. 3 different versions of Finn are showcased during the intro. We first see Fionna in her bus tour uniform, seemingly in her boring world. Then there's baby Finn running through the vampire world. Last up is adult Finn, all bearded and muscular, complete with Jake tattoo, hustling in the forest he took Simon adventuring in. This serves as a reminder that these are all the same person, connected but from different universes. Number 4. Simon flies towards the screen screaming at the end of the intro. He's holding on to what appears to be a big old tetramino. These are the pieces that Golbetti crunches unworthy beings into and can be seen floating around the gigantic chaos entity. If you look closely, you can also see that the Ice King crown is flying along with them. I wonder which poor sucker ended up as this particular shape. Number 5. The God Auditor and all-around vengeful lunatic, Scarab, is voiced by Kaylee McKee. McKee also voices my secondary main in Guilty Gear Strive, Testament. Number 6. McKee even voices all the little scarabs that result from Golbetti's protection of Simon. What range? Number 7. Prismo is voiced by Sean Rohani, who can be heard in all sorts of other animated shows and video games, from the English dub of Record of Ragnarok to the latest Bethesda game Starfield. Number 8. The candy shop Gary and Marsha Lee visit is run by Lord Monochromicorn and has never actually talked. Number 9. The candy shop also has a capsule dispenser that looks like a gumball guardian and a poster with the phrase, "Dentists will try to stop you," printed on it. Nice. Number 10. The Lich makes a comeback at the end of episode 8, Jerry. And what would the Lich be without a terrifying voice? Yes, he is still voiced by Hellboy himself, Ron Perlman. Number 11. The Lich straight up tears Billy's skin off, leaving nothing but his skeleton behind. Even his floppy, unsocketed eye goes up in flames. Number 12. Fionna and Cake were originally designed by Natasha Allegri, a crew member who worked on Adventure Time. Allegri designed characters for the first 2 seasons and eventually became a storyboard revisionist. Number 13. Allegri first created Fionna and Cake just for fun. She would post doodles and art on the 4chan image board known as Co, and made the gender-swapped version of Finn and Jake for a Rule 63 thread. You know, for every male character, there's a female version and vice versa. People liked these doodles a lot and they blew up online. Eventually, in Season 3 of Adventure Time, these characters got their own episode, and the rest is history. Number 14. Pendleton Ward and Natasha Allegri also worked together on a silly little project called Peekapoo Poop Chew back in 2011. It's a fart joke with Pokemon. Just thought you should know. Number 15. While on the bus tour in episode 1, Fionna mentions the city park while a fountain is featured prominently. The statue in the middle of this fountain appears to be a version of Betty, which makes sense when you realize that this is inside of Simon's head. Number 16. A much less detailed version of this statue can be seen in the background when Fionna first wakes up in her magical dream world. Just look to the left of Mr. Cupcake and Chocoberry. Number 17. The classic Adventure Time dragon makes a comeback too. It circles an enormous cyclops, leaving a little goo trail behind. Seeing that the dragon has a butt and teeth, I'm not so sure if the cyclops should be comfortable with that. Dragons are pretty weird in Adventure Time, not actually resembling any other mythology's interpretation. This particular dragon first appeared in the 10th episode of Season 1 of Adventure Time, Memories of Boom Boom Mountain. Number 18. I mentioned in the last video that in the end credits of each episode, Fionna and Cake share their dreams. This is just as true in the actual events of the show as shown by when they both have the same dream after returning to their world. Simon in the fridge and all. Number 19. Queenie of Queenie's Bus Tours is voiced by comedian Chelsea Peretti. You might recognize her as Gina from Brooklyn Nine-Nine or from her stand-up. Number 20. When Simon gets zapped by Golbetty, he ends up in the body of Shermie, a little gray cat person in the far-off future of Ooh. We've met Shermie before in the episode Come Along With Me in Season 10. It's heavily implied that Shermie is a descendant or possibly the actual reincarnation of Finn the human. Just look at that pose. Number 21. Shermie was based on a cat belonging to storyboard artist and now supervising director of Fionna and Cake, Steve Wolfhard. The cat's name is Shortcut, just so you know. Number 22. Shermie is accompanied by Beth, a far-off descendant of Jake the dog. Number 23. Beth is also known as Pup number 38,000. Jake and Lady Rainicorn's bloodline seems to be going strong. Number 24. Beth has a middle name and a last name, making her full name Beth Burrito Jackson. The burrito likely originates with Jake's love of this food, and Jackson might be a portmanteau of Jake and son or Jake's son. Number 25. Beth's portal powers take notes from the classic Valve puzzle game Portal. By letting someone fall from height into one, they can carry their momentum and get launched long distances. Shermie is really good at this. Number 26. Beth also has a storage room of sorts inside of her portal, big enough to hold a multi-story ladder, books like The Great Picnics, and a whole whack of stuffed animals. Number 27. There's also a mug inside of Beth's portal room, and it's almost identical to Jake's favorite cup that he throws away in the Adventure Time episode Puhoy. Number 28. There's also a snow globe in there, and inside that globe is a miniature model of Tree Trunks' house. Number 29. Gibbon, another Pup Rainicorn shapeshifter descendant, is also still ruling over his kingdom. One of the pups chasing Shermie and Beth shouts out after them, "Gibbon doesn't forgive!" Gibbon being the unmerciful ruler of the Pup Kingdom, who has one of the Ice Thing's gems as an eyeball. Number 30. Beth and Shermie's checklist towards the revolution paints a picture that can only tell us that they're revolutionary communists. Onwards, comrade. Number 31. When Beth and Shermie visit the library, it's in a state of disrepair, but you can still see that there are turtle decorations adorning the outside. Turtle Princess was in charge of the library in Adventure Time, and one can only assume that she held the same role here. Number 32. There's a robot endoskeleton of sorts inside of a turtle shell at the library as well. It dual wields book guns and is pretty darn cool. Number 33. Even Fionna and Cake's shared dream at the end of the episode features a realistic turtle with long blonde hair atop a pile of books, reading another book. Man, Turtle Princess getting a lot of representation here. Number 34. We learn that Scarab really is immortal, as Golbetty can't actually stop or kill him, only divide him up into little funky Scarab Juniors. Number 35. This immortality is compounded upon at the very end, where we see Scarab on cleaning duty at Prismo's place. What's an eternity between buddies, right? Number 36. When Simon, in Shermie's body, finds a book about the Magic Crown, he exclaims, "Euripides!"
Euripides!
Euripides was an ancient Greek tragedian, famous for such works as Medea and the Trojan Women. Number 37. The library is full of pagelings, but not as we already knew them. Back in the episode Paper Pete, Finn's yawn was stronger than the pagelings' attacks. The pagelings in the future library seem much more feral and dangerous, and it must be from either too many hollow books or not enough. Number 38. Huntress Wizard's human counterpart, Hunter, is likely Latino, as evidenced by his saying of Kalinda as the dandelion petals float around in the episode Cheers. Number 39. Hunter is voiced by Vico Ortiz, a Puerto Rican drag king, activist, and actor. Number 40. In the episode Casper and Nova, Marshall Lee is wearing a t-shirt that looks a lot like the one Marceline gifted P-Bubs when they started dating. Number 41. Ancient Artifacts, the book telling the story of Casper and Nova, is almost identical to the book Simon wrote and showed off to the 20th Century Man exhibit visitors. You know, except for like the gun features. Number 42. Casper and Nova are stand-ins for Simon and Betty, from their chosen quest all the way down to how they make decisions. They want to discover and document important talismans similar to Simon and Betty's antiquarian pursuits, with Casper being very single-minded and Nova wanting to see what else is out there. Number 43. Choose Goose's counterpart in Shermie and Beth's world is known as Pond Swan. Also, all the geese are long gone, implying that some sort of goose extinction event occurred. Very sad for all the goose fans out there. Number 44. Pond Swan's rhyming cadence extends into his technology as well. He appears to be a cyborg of sorts, and when he flies away using his UFO-like skirt, it leaves behind exhaust letters that spell "eat feet." Number 45. With Simon taking over, Shermie gets to live inside of his own mind for a while. It's a pretty sweet setup with video games, snacks, and even a little itty-bitty statuette of Beth on top of the TV. Number 46. For whatever reason, there are 2 Hansburg restaurants within a block of each other in Fionna and Cake's world. Is this because Simon can only imagine so many different restaurants, or is it an animation error? Who knows? You can see this in the episode Cheers right after the scarab kills all of the released egg prisoners. Number 47. There's also a karate dojo called Kick to Win that you can see in the background, which could have been very helpful in fighting off the scarab. Heck, it would have been very specifically helpful. The ad on the window says that Dan will teach you. Learn to kick, plate, him, her, and bug. Number 48. The fountain we saw on the bus tour has changed thanks to Simon's interactions with Gold Betty. It's no longer a statue of Betty there, but now a statue of gold. Well, it was until the scarab zapped it. Number 49. This statue stays around after the scarab's rampage too. When Fionna and Hunter are planting weeds in the park, you can see it as the sun rises. Number 50. There's a little bumblebee person outside of the post office as it gets zapped. Check out that yellow and black striped outfit. You always gotta have a bumblebee in here. Number 51. When Cake goes big mode, she takes on the form of Godzilla, and even gets a musical cue to boot. This motif is very similar to those from classic kaiju movies. Number 52. Remember that Kick to Win dojo? Well, apparently Cake did learn. The first thing she does in the fight against the scarab is kick him through a wall. Kick bug. Number 53. In order to blow the dandelion petals out to all the people in her world, Fionna climbs atop an ice truck. So in a way, Simon / the Ice King is supporting her in this endeavor. Number 54. After getting blown away by Gold Betty, Simon drifts along, touching down on different shapes. Each time he steps down, he catches a glimpse of a different world. Number 55. The first world he sees is the extinct world, all barren and sun-bleached. Number 56. Next up is the vampire world. Flesh, mushrooms, and desperate graffiti as far as the eye can see. Number 57. The third world he steps on is inhabited by really tiny creatures, and he accidentally crushes a fruit cart in the middle of town. I guess it could be worse. Number 58. He briefly touches upon Baby World when a shape brushes up against his arm, but no babies can be seen, just the plush and colorful landscape. Number 59. There's a water world, water park prank world, a super hardcore capitalist hellscape, a brief visit to farm world, a Jake world that's mostly just magic dog, and a lava world. Number 60. When Simon finally lands on what appears to be Ooh, there's a little snail to the right of his foot. This is the same snail that has appeared in every episode of Adventure Time, save the pilot, food chain, the wand, BMO, Obsidian, and the Frog Seasons shorts. He's also possessed by the Lich at some point. Probably wasn't that big of a deal, right? Number 61. In case you were on the fence about the scarab, you can go right ahead and consider him a pretty bad dude. The building he destroyed after Fionna World went legit was called Homeless Hamsters. Come on, man. Let those little dudes find their own incredibly creative way to die. Number 62. Fionna and Finn scream pretty much the same way.
Finn!
Number 63. The blue butterfly seen throughout this season might be a facet of Betty looking through all the different worlds. Number 64. Cake turning into a hammer is actually sort of foreshadowed by the adventures of Casper and Nova. In the UI around the interactive book, you can see their inventory, and at one point, a hammer very similar in shape to Cake's hammer form is seen in one of the bubbles. This hammer fight is also foreshadowed by Fionna's hammer in her dream in the very first episode. Number 65. Wildberry Princess does have a humanoid form in this world. They can be seen walking their little dog around and cowering from the scarab's attacks. What a cute jacket. Number 66. The ice thing, Gunther, Orgalorg, forget it. The bearded, bird-footed creature with gems for eyes can be spotted at Dirt Beer Guy's place, and he's still missing a gem. Number 67. Jay and Destiny Jr. go on a date at the aquarium, and you can see the penguin room behind them. I'm not saying that's a Chainsaw Man reference, but it could be a Chainsaw Man reference. Number 68. Fiona's roller derby team name, Snarla Gortelli, is a reference to the Cheers waitress Carla Tortelli. The Cheers influence lives on. Number 69. Somebody's looking for a pet worm in Fiona Land, and that just makes me sad. The poor worm. Number 70. Also, a Daddy Issues themed stand-up night is on a poster. That just sounds perfect for a certain vampire queen. Number 71. In Simon's new 90s themed exhibit, there are a few mannequins on display, representing a valley girl, a skater, and a grandma. The valley girl is wearing an outfit that's very similar to the iconic yellow tartan of Alicia Silverstone's character Cher in the movie Clueless. The skater looks like a skater, and the grandma is very grandma. Number 72. There's also what appears to be a Tamagotchi knockoff on one of the display screens behind Simon. Number 73. The tune that plays at the end of Cheers is called Blue Shift by Kendall:3. She's described as a rabbit girl virtual idol AI born to entertain you on her Bandcamp. Check out some more of her music. Number 74. Every episode of Fionna and Cake is named after a character from the show. You've got the obvious ones like Fiona Campbell and Simon Petrikov, and some more abstract ones like Destiny and The Star. The funny thing about this is that it implies that Cheers is actually a character, not just a sitcom that keeps popping up. Number 75. Sammy and Normulon from the episode Prismo the Wishmaster are yet another reference to Cheers, which has two characters named Sam and Norm. Number 76. The episode The Star shares its name with a tarot card, which represents new hope and revelation, but inverted represents loss and despair. This mirrors the situation of Ooh and Marcy drastically changing with Simon gone. Number 77. Fiona's last name being Campbell is a fun discovery. Finn's biological mother, Minerva, also has the last name Campbell. Number 78. Marshall Lee's mother, Hannah Abadir, runs a vacuum company called Abadir's Vacuums. Get it? You know, because she sucks, like a vampire, but also as a person. Number 79. Abadir's home very closely resembles the Nightosphere, just with less demons and killing. Well, on the surface anyway. Number 80. When Gary is first seen making a latte, he puts in a swan design, referencing Princess Bubblegum's winged mode of transportation. Number 81. It's impossible for Marceline to get a tattoo. While attempting to get a matching one with Princess Bubblegum, Marceline continues to heal her skin as soon as the design's put down. Number 82. P-Bubs also cannot be tattooed as her skin is just too darn sticky. It gums up that tattoo machine. Number 83. The magazine MLE, pulled out of Fiona's backpack in Farm World, is her universe's counterpart to the recurring BLE magazine that appears throughout Adventure Time. The counterparts run deep. Even the magazines get one. Number 84. The Cosmic Owl is also wanted by Scarab, but for a reason you might not expect. Profiteering. Owl? Come on. Number 85. The stickers on Marshall Lee's guitar case are references to real punk bands. An example of this is Daikini Kill, paying tribute to Bikini Kill. Number 86. The cell phone Fiona uses is very similar to a Nokia 3000. Indestructible. Number 87. When scrolling through the Scarab's list of wanted individuals, everybody but Prismo has two mugshots, showing them head-on and in profile. Prismo has only one because he's literally two-dimensional and could not give you a profile if he wanted. Number 88. Two of Finn's children in Farm World, Jay and Bonnie, share names with his children from his adventures in Pillow World. I guess Finn likes those names. Number 89. According to Steve Wolfhard, BMO's wish to Prismo was the one behind Baby World, although BMO ended up being turned into a baby monitor. Number 90. The Ice Scouts in the Winter King's world look like the Servant Pearls from Steven Universe. Number 91. The Winter King musical sequence was animated by Smallboo, the husband-wife animation duo known for stuff like Batman Piderman, the game Later Alligator, and my personal favorite, voicing a clown-themed food truck worker in Big Top Burger. Number 92. In Marshall Lee's van, there's a pendant that resembles Marceline's childhood toy, Hambo. Number 93. The suits Marshall Lee and Simon wear to the blood drive party are basically the same ones they wore in the comics Adventure Time 2017 Spooktacular. Number 94. When BMO dies trying to get the remote working again, Cake picks him up. When she does this, her normal powers activate and turn BMO into the alarm clock we saw at the beginning of the show. Number 95. Fionna has 3 top fantasies and starts letting people know when Cake starts talking. It's later revealed that her second fantasy is a world made of candy, and her number 1 fantasy is being turned into a kaiju-sized version of herself. Number 96. In the episode Jerry, there are a few notable errors. The first one is that BMO's green button appears to be red for a shot. Number 97. Another error appears when Simon is in the library and gets shushed by a patron. The note from Betty that he's holding becomes a book for a moment. Number 98. The last one is that Simon's white streak is missing for a bit during the time that the Lich has Fionna, Cake, and Simon in a trance. Number 99. Dan Mintz voices Jake's offspring, TV. Mintz is best known for voicing Tina Belcher on Bob's Burgers. Number 100. When Simon is in the presence of Golb, the clouds in Fionna World change shape to match the shapes that Golb makes. Number 101. The buildings in Fionna World, even when totally normal at the beginning, have all sorts of strange glitches and anomalies. Doors lead to nowhere, stairs climb where they shouldn't, and architectural oddities are abound. This is likely thanks to being inside of Simon's mind. Number 102. There's a drink called Super Porp advertised next to the slush machines in Casper and Nova, but this isn't the first time that we've seen this. This stuff was first introduced in the Adventure Time episode Dark Purple. Number 103. Right as Prismo pulls up his laptop to show Scarab how to make stuff, his face glitches out. What's up with that? Could it be foreshadowing to more Adventure Time series? Number 104. Right now, Fionna and Cake sits at a 100% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes and a 98% audience score. Number 105. No new news when it comes to a second season or any other spin-off, however. Executive producer Adam Muto said that it's out of the team's control. Number 106. There are lots of possibilities for a follow-up though. There are many universes explored during Fionna and Cake that had some loose ends left untied. And there's also the prospect of finding out who Prismo's boss actually is. Number 107. The official soundtrack to the show is labeled Season 1, which does leave room for additional seasons. That's no guarantee, but it is an interesting discovery. Great work, team. We made it through an additional 107 facts about Fionna and Cake. Hopefully this filled the gaps we left in our first episode and provided you with tons of quality information regarding the Adventure Time universe. What fact is your favorite? Did we miss any good ones? Do you think there will be a Season 2? Make sure you let me know down in the comments and subscribe to ChannelFrederator for more like this. Thanks for watching, and remember, Frederator loves you.